Hey guys, welcome back to the Husker Big Red YouTube channel. I'm Chris Peterson, and with me as always is Danny Gillette, and we're back for another Nebraska football pregame chat. It is game day. It is game 8. We have Purdue coming up this afternoon, and I've just found out from Danny that we have Grant Bricks coming on a visit today. So, man, I'm excited. I'm freaking excited. And Danny, how are you doing this morning?
I'm doing good. I woke up to the news of Grant Bricks coming to visit, and that automatically put a smile on my face. So today's going to be a good day. And yeah, I'm pretty excited, given the events that transpired earlier in the week with the decommitment of Kawan Lacey.
Yeah, that was a bummer. It was kind of, you could kind of see it coming, but he also you know did an interview like the day before he decommitted and said he was still firm to Nebraska. So it's kind of, that, but that's just recruiting. And, at the end of the day, like we were discussing, it seems like, maybe NIL, maybe there's some more, some programs that are a little better at, giving the bags of money than Nebraska. I don't know if that has anything to do with it, but because, man, he was going to play right away and they were going to like totally utilize this guy. So I don't really understand, the decommitment outside of that part of it. Not that I have any knowledge.
This is just my personal opinion, but I don't think our NIL is kind of up to par yet. And yes, I know it takes time to build things, but it's hurting us right now. And so I'm wondering what's going on behind the scenes at the 1890 initiative, because they need to step it up, or else we're going to get left in the dust, especially with the likes of UCLA and USC coming in next year. We could get left in the dust pretty quickly on NIL, and like it or not, it is part of the game. So Nebraska needs to step it up and step it up pretty quickly.
That they do, and in the transfer portal, we've talked about, the need for tackles, maybe maybe quarterbacks. Like those, you have to have NIL money for those guys. And
Yep.
I just read something that, basically anymore, for like a blue chip, a 4-star quarterback, like the NIL is running like $1 billion. So I mean, that's just the name of the game anymore. It's weird, but at any rate, that's what it is. It's great to see some of you guys in the chat. Go
And there
Big
is
Red.
money at Nebraska. Don't
Yeah,
don't. There is
there's
money there.
definitely money. I mean, look at how much
So,
they're putting into the stadium and the fan base, and so yeah, Nebraska should have one of the best NAL programs in the
and on
country.
that note, you can bet with reduced seating that ticket prices will also be pretty hefty. So they'll have the money to get this NIL show going. It's just about execution. And Matt Davidson, step your game up.
Yeah, and I think they're doing a good job with some of the other sports. It seems like women's basketball and volleyball
Volleyball.
and some.
Yep.
They're doing a good job on the team wide aspect of it. But in college basketball too. I mean, you have to be able to match these NIL deals, like with like Hunter Dickinson went to Kansas for money. He went there because they were paying him the most money. I mean, so if you want to get that type of player, like you have to be able to pony up that. And so hopefully Nebraska can get to that point because they have. I mean, this program has some of the best fan support in the world. We all know
Yeah.
that. So, so it should get there. But it's great to see all you guys: Tim Wolf, Moonbot, Steve from Texas. Go Big Red,
Good
everybody.
morning, guys. Thanks for joining. We appreciate it.
If you guys have any questions or anything, throw them in the chat. Here's Sam I am. We'll see what he has to say. Everyone wants to blame NIL, sees the product on the field, wants none of it, and the injuries are a little disconcerting. Also, who also knows what negative recruiting is being used against us? I mean, I get what you're saying, Sam, but I mean, Nebraska's running the football really well. So, I mean, we're one of the best running teams in the country. And they've also basically told them, like, you're going to be a focal
Yeah.
point getting the football. So I don't really buy that answer per se.
I don't really buy it either necessarily, and I don't think the injuries in this case have anything to do with this particular point. But I will say that all of these injuries on the offensive side of the football are concerning. I've quite honestly never seen anything like it in terms of how many injuries happening all at once, especially on the offensive line. I mean, that's going to be we wanted to see some of these guys, so some of these young guns play early. Now we're going to get to see them for sure, and probably honestly not in the best circumstance.
Yeah, the injuries have been crazy. I mean, I've been watching pro and college football for, forever, and I don't know if I've ever seen a team lose. I mean, this is what the top three receivers now we've
Yeah.
lost. Starting running back, 3 starting offensive linemen. I mean, that's like insane. So
Starting quarterback, if
yeah.
you want to buy that he's still hurt, or
Yeah, but I mean, yeah, Harburg did, but you're right though, in the sense that the reason Jeff Sims didn't, start that game against Louisiana Tech or whoever it was because of the injury, and then Harburg has played so well, he hasn't got it back. So yeah, it has been pretty crazy, but we'll see. And the offensive line, I mean, I am worried today, but if Teddy, my biggest X factor there is Teddy. If he can play well at left tackle, like I really am not as worried about Justin Evan Jenkins, and
I actually really like Justin Evan Jenkins a lot.
I thought he played well, and the thing too, I've always liked Henry Leftoski. I always have. I liked him when he played last year. I mean, I'm not saying he's an all Big Ten offensive lineman or whatever, but I think that he can at least. I mean, he's started games, he's played games before, and so it's not like any of these guys are coming in there and they've never started a game. So I feel good about that, and we do get Newelly back in a couple of weeks, which is nice. But as long as Teddy can hold up at left tackle, then I think we'll be okay. And frankly, if he can't, then yeah, maybe we need to see Gunnar Gatula out there. But I'm hoping that Teddy will be healthy and that we'll see the top 100 recruit that we all kind of expected over this last month of the season.
Yeah, and I think we get Newelly back. They said 2 weeks, I think, if I'm not mistaken. So at least we get him back. I mean, he's been a solid lineman as well, but I just hate seeing all these injuries, and it makes things tough no matter who is under center. People want to say, oh, Sims would be better, Harburg will be better. Now you're in a position where the injuries are making it so it would be tough on any quarterback that's under center.
It's you got to have a really good offensive line. I mean, that's where it all starts. Offense and defensive line. We've known that at Nebraska forever. Matt Rule knows that. And Steve has a question that kind of addresses that. We need Grant Bricks. You're right, Steve. We do. Outside of the NIL, what does Nebraska need to do to get the recruits to commit and stay? Winning games is obviously a given. I think that I know that they had the Kewan Lacey decommitment, and I know Kalen Barta, flipped his commitment to Kansas State, but I mean that
was a Caleb Benning move, I think.
Yeah, I'm not as worried about that because they're getting Caleb Benning, and so I think that obviously, and I think Kalen Barta he was a Kansas kid, probably always wanted to play. I think Kansas State held the kind of special sway with him because they hadn't offered him before. So at any rate, I don't think that Nebraska has a huge problem holding on to recruits. I mean, they've been able to hold on to Carter Nelson so far. And I mean, knock on wood, there's still, a month or so to go before signing day. But I think that Matt Rule and this staff, I feel like they do a good job of, recruiting certain type of players. So I'm not really necessarily worried about that. There's just, you're going to get, I mean, when you're a place like Nebraska, this is going to happen, outside of getting in more improved NIL. Because if Alabama comes and wants a kid and they really push for the kid and then they're offering him a ton of, I mean, that's just going to be hard to beat if you're Nebraska. And I don't know, I'm not sure what they can do to avoid that other than, I mean, even if Nebraska becomes like the super blue blood program, like you're still going to be susceptible to that, I think. So I know that's not much of an answer, but I think they're doing as much as they can right now. I mean, and I just think it's about building the relationships, and then you have to make the time commitment to kids. And I think that they've done that. I mean, they it's not like they ignored Kewan Lacey, and they're working hard to get Grant Bricks. I mean, they just sent the truck to Carter Nelson. So I like what they're doing. You can't win every battle.
Yeah, and I think it's still a tough sell right now in the sense that it's year one for the program. I think getting to that bowl game will be a huge step for recruiting, but I mean, I think it's still a little bit of a tough sell right now. And let's be honest here. If you were to play football and if you wanted to go to college, right, would you want to play in sunny Miami or would you want to play in Nebraska? I love Nebraska, but I'd take sunny Miami and the beaches and the women and the U tradition and the culture 10 times out of 10. I mean, people say it's not that big a deal, but let's be honest here. I think location plays a big factor as well for out-of-state recruits who don't necessarily get the tradition of the Nebraska football program.
Yeah, I definitely can buy that. And another thing with Kewan Lacey too is, I mean, when Nebraska got him, when they got his commitment, he was like a 3-star guy. He wasn't and I mean, his ranking has really taken off, and so I think he just, he the only SEC school that was really on him before was like Ole Miss, and now you got Florida and Alabama, and so I just think that
And I still
he's
think Ole
he
Miss is
now
very much a factor in his
yeah.
recruitment.
Yeah, I do too. And I think he just sees himself as more of an SEC, recruit at this point, and that's fine. I mean, good for him. That's fine.
And
But
and also I think too, this coaching staff has made it a point to offer and get players to commit before they hit big. Now, and by hit big, I mean get a 4-star ranking or see their recruiting profile increase. But with that comes more interest in schools. So it's a catch-22 type of game that they're playing here, and this is what happens.
yep, and yeah, not every kid's gonna, not every kid, like you said, is gonna want to come to Nebraska, maybe, and that's okay. So I'm not gonna rip on Kewan Lacey. I mean, it's
No,
a
not at
great
all.
decision for him. He's gonna be a good player, though. It
Yeah,
does bum me out, and I do think that. I did say this before over the summer, though, that's risky just to have one running back in this class, even though it is a dude like Kewan Lacey. I mean, if they had been able to get him to signing day, that would have been one thing. But now, I mean, I'm not. We talked about this. I'm not super worried about obviously the depth going forward, but they do need to get a running back in this class. I think in the next
well,
couple months.
I
They
think
got till February.
yeah,
I mean,
true, yeah,
they have
exactly.
till people forget about that, but they got till February.
I remember when February used to be a big thing. Back in my day, February signing day was a big thing. No, but
Yeah.
I think as far as getting a running back in this class, even if they don't, they at least have enough for next year. They have Emmett Johnson, Ramirez coming back. They have Quentin Ives. I mean, they have a stable of running backs now. If they don't get a running back in the class this year, they definitely need to get a running back for the 2025 class because depth is going to be important because Johnson, Ramirez is not going to be there. Um, after next season. So I don't think the sky is falling in terms of getting a running back right now for next year. But if they don't get a running back for 2025, then I would start to worry a little bit.
And yeah, so Sam I am said there's a kid from Philly we're in on, forgot his name. He is impressive. Also, I believe that's Isaiah West who you're talking about. If he visited last weekend, he is a 2025 kid, and
That's right. I remember reading that. Yeah.
he is impressive. And Penn State's kind of been the leader, but he said Nebraska basically is like right near the top last week. You never know what the interviews what they mean, but
I mean, they say that every school is at the top of every
I
list
know.
after every visit. So I don't know.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Got to take it with a grain of salt. But yeah, and then Sam made a point every year. Kids change their mind. At least Lacey did it now, and we still do have time to move on. Which you're right there. Like I said, you've got the rest of this, this period. You've got through February, so there's plenty of time for Nebraska to find a running back, and they can even look at the portal if they have to. In terms of this game, Steve asks, with all the injuries that we've had, who do you see as an underrated young player on each side of the field in this game? I'll throw that to you first, Danny.
I've been tooting his horn all week, but Emmett Johnson, I think he's really been able to show what he can do in terms of, stepping up with injuries to the running back position. I think he's, a really good runner. He's an explosive runner. He makes quick decisions with the football. He doesn't hesitate. And so, I think in terms of running the football outside of Heinrich Harburg and, ignoring the quarterback running game for a second, I think Emmett Johnson is going to be a key factor in today's game. I believe he rushed for 73 yards last weekend against Northwestern. So, I mean, I see him continuing to build off that, and he looks more and more comfortable each game. On the offensive side of the football, defensively, Cam Leonard, I think, has really stepped up and played at a high level this year, and I see him making an impact today. I think the defensive line play for this game is going to be especially important. And, I know I said only Leonard, but the combo of Leonard and Princewell Umamalian have been a dangerous duo this year. So I expect those two to really make an impact in this game.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, Emmett Johnson is a guy, I could see him running for 100 yards today. I really could.
Yeah.
I feel like he's close to breaking a long run. I know he had about a 20-yard run last week, but I'm going to say actually just to, maybe an underrated player, I'm going to go with Jaden Doss, because,
Okay.
excuse me, Malachi Coleman had the big catch last week, and so maybe the defense will be looking for him. And I know they've been talking up Jaden Doss. Like, I'm waiting for him to have his moment, so maybe he steps up today and makes an explosive play. And then I'm going to go with Riley Van Poppel on defense. Just with the same, as a little more underrated guy. Not that he's super underrated. He was huge on that fourth down stop against Illinois, but he's another guy that just keeps getting better and better. And this freshman class, I mean, you talk about this freshman class, though. I mean, Matt Rule didn't have a lot of time to recruit it, and some of it was recruited by Mickey Joseph and Scott Frost. So I mean, we should give those guys some credit for it, but man, there's some big time players in this. I mean, Van Poppel, Uamalian, Leonard, right, just on the defensive line, and then you've got Malachi Coleman, who's looking pretty good. I mean, there's just a lot of really promising talent in this freshman class. So I think that's a really good sign for Matt Rule. And there was a comment earlier.
And even Tristan Alvano I'd add to the list. Despite his struggles, I really do think he has a bright future.
But Tim Wolf said this earlier. The attrition is showing the talent on the 2s and 3s. That could be a positive, showing potential recruits, and that Rule is serious about developing his players. So that was a good point, Tim. I wanted to come back to that. Looks like we got Fox joining us.
James Williams.
James Williams would be. He had a big game last week. I'm like, who's that number 9? I'm like, James, and then I remembered him over the summer. But
he was part of that recruiting blitz at the end of June where we landed like 75,000 commitments in 2 weeks. But he kind of flew under the radar. But I mean, he's not flying under the radar now. He's really, really good. Really good.
So let's see. Yeah, Fox, is Teddy ready for this?
I hope so.
I hope so. I hope so. I mean, if he's healthy, I mean, I think that he is. He's got all the physical abilities. He's got the physical abilities of an NFL. I mean, you don't make that many. Like, the Lord doesn't make that many guys that are 6'9" with that type of wingspan that can play football. You know what I mean? And that body size probably has also got him into some trouble injury wise. It's tough it's just tough to stay healthy. But I mean, if he's healthy, I feel like he's not going to be, there's not going to be a huge drop off from Corcoran to him, because it's not, and I like Turner Corcoran, but he's not a great tackle. So I don't think that it's going to be a huge drop off.
Well, I was going to say, if there's any more drop off from Corcoran, we might as well not even put an offensive lineman out there. No, but I think for Teddy, the biggest thing has always been injuries. I mean, he just hasn't been able to stay healthy, and that's not a knock on him. That's just, part of the game. And so I'm excited to see what he can do. I'm excited that he's healthy first and foremost, and that the coaching staff took their time with him in making sure he was healthy and ready to go and didn't rush him like I thought at times last year the previous staff did. So we'll see. I hope he's ready. And if he is ready, then that could be a big boost on that side of the line for sure.
It's definitely, though, as we've talked about, I mean, Purdue is good at sacking the quarterback. They're 3rd in the Big Ten, 19th in the country. So they do get after it. And I think it's going to be vitally important for Nebraska to run the football. I would really like to see, honestly, this is something I said in my predictions post I wrote yesterday for HuskerBigRed.com, but I would love if Heinrich Haarberg had like as many rushing attempts as passes today. Like if he ran it 18 times and threw it 16 times, like I think that would be the perfect formula for Nebraska.
But a lot of that falls on Marcus Satterfield, and Satterfield starts off the game slow. I mean, as a coordinator, the way he calls the game, he starts off the game slow. Like, we can't have a repeat of the start of last Saturday's game where we had 2 interceptions. And granted, I think one was not Harburg's fault, and that was the one that bounced off Fedoni's hands. But at the same time, we got to stick to what we do best. And even if that's making Harburg's life easier to begin the game by just running the football, like we got to do that. We can't pretend that Harburg is, a game or a quarterback where, he's a passing quarterback that can win us the game with his arm, because quite honestly, I don't think that's necessarily his style. And so we need to establish that early, and we need to call the game like that early and not wait until, the game goes on to kind of say, hey, we should run the football. Run the football early and often. Don't try to make Harburg's life any harder than it needs to be, and, allow the defense to get settled in without having to play from behind after the first possession of the game.
Yeah, and slow starts too have been. I mean, the
Yeah.
Minnesota game they started slow. Colorado they drove down and then missed the field goal. I'm trying to think, in even against Louisiana Tech and
Yeah, I was
maybe
gonna say
Illinois
Louisiana
if
Tech.
they
Yeah.
scored on the opening drive. I just can't remember, but that has been a bit of an issue. Illinois, I guess they did start fairly quickly, although Illinois got the ball first. I'm trying to. Anyway, it's all kind of running together, but they do need to start better at the. And then we've talked about this. Purdue, even though their record is not as good as Northwestern's, like this offense is better, and they'll take advantage if a Nebraska gives them like 2 possessions in the red zone last week. I mean, that was an incredible job by the defense to only give up 3 points, but I don't think that we're going to see, this is just a different offense that we're going to see this week outside of, Northwestern.
And we better open up the checkbook for Tony White. That's all I have to say.
Yeah, I mean, for one, I hope he does. I hope he's got a buyout like on his contract. I'm sure he does, but most of these guys, they don't. There's not very much you can do if they a want to go to the NFL and be a coordinator or a head coach, or b if they want to go to a college head coach. So we'll see. I don't see him leaving this year, but within the future. But we've also got Dvorak's one of the top up and coming guys. He made the 24/7 list as like the top 10 or one of the top up and coming coaches under 30. So maybe he can step in and run. I mean that's I think that one thing I really like about Matt Rule is that I think he gets that you have to develop your coaching staff as well as your players. And so I think he's already planning for who's next defense. Like I would not be shocked if he already knows who the next defensive coordinator is on his staff and he's developing Dvorak or whoever to kind of take over that role.
And I've always said I'd rather have members of our coaching staff leave because they've gotten a promotion than being fired for their poor job. So the more coaches that leave for promotions and things like that, I mean, that's a notch in the belt for Matt Rule and honestly for the Nebraska football program, because if Rule keeps developing coaches and they go on to bigger and better things, then more good coaches will want to come here because they know they'll have better opportunities down the road if they perform well at Nebraska. It's kind of like developing players in that way too. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and that's good coaches. I mean, they develop other good coaches, and so I fully have confidence that Matt Rule, will be able to do that. Walter Blizzard has a question about the portal and kind of junior college. Do you think Nebraska can get better top tier talent from the junior college than the portal? As portal players often are non-starters, while JC guys, it's other issues than talent. Well, I mean, they are looking at. I mean, we've seen them. They offered Damon Demas, who is a former five-star guy who played at Texas A&M, had an assault thing, and then an assault charge, which he ever actually it actually got dropped. And
Yep.
by all accounts, he's been a model citizen at the JUCO where he's at right now. So Trey Richardson is a kick returner. Is another guy that's going to come in and play here. And they got like Kai Wallen last year, who's played a little bit. So I do think that I think Nebraska is going to look at that junior college part of it. And the other thing too is that you don't have to have like $1 million pay. You don't have to pay these guys as much in NIL money coming out of junior college as you do out of the portal. It's probably not as competitive. So I do think that in certain instances, Nebraska will be able to get, guys out of the JUCO. Now, if you're talking about, a guy who can start at quarterback or left tackle, you're probably going to have to go to the transfer portal. But there are going to be some JUCO guys I think that they can and will try to take advantage of, which they're going to in this class.
Yeah, and I think even dating back to the Frost era, they Nebraska tried to get some JUCO players in. Omar Manning, the wide receiver, is one that comes to mind. So Nebraska, in recent memory, has been pretty active in the JUCO ranks, and I don't expect that to stop under Matt Rule.
And Sam makes a good point. Portal has really had a negative effect on junior college players. And so, yeah, we might be able to take advantage of that. I think they are, and I think they're going to. It's all about that evaluation and watching those kids. And the thing I like about junior college kids is, at least you're playing you're playing college level football. It's a grade level up from high school, so they're more prepared to come in and play right away. At least not always, but a lot of the time, I feel like that's true. Tim Wolf, $3 million for Tony White. Worth it. I don't know if he'll get that. I think he's getting paid like $1 million right now. I'm not 100%
I'll have
sure.
to look.
I'll have to look too, but he definitely if they could keep him by like giving him a raise to like $2 million a year, I don't know if Nebraska's going to pay a coordinator $2 million a year, though. That's like Georgia money. So we'll see. We'll see. I don't know if there's many coordinators in the Big Ten that are making that type of money, like, so, but the Big Ten's also going to have like massive TV deals. So I guess they can't really, say they don't have money, but
Tony White's making $1 million right now.
So, I mean, maybe he could get up to, probably like 1.5. They could probably bump him up there, and then, have some maybe incentives like, Nebraska wins the Big Ten championship. You know what I mean? They have stuff like that. I mean, they could probably get him up between, over $1.5 million. But it's hard for me to see Nebraska paying a coach, an assistant coach, $2 million. Not saying that they shouldn't. I would, but they just haven't done that type of thing.
Well, here's the thing. Evan Cooper is the second highest paid coach on the staff at $670,000. So there's already a big drop off from Tony White to Evan Cooper, and so I don't know. It is out of the ordinary, but like Sam said, make him a defensive coordinator and assistant head coach. I mean, I wouldn't be opposed to that at all. I think White is a very competent coach, and he has the capabilities to kind of take over a program.
Yeah, and he was smart to make this move, though. I mean, he's really, for all the coaches that made that, like, he's definitely, improved his stock. Terrence Knighton has too. And he's done such a good job that within a couple of years, maybe he's, in the running to be the defensive coordinator.
Yeah,
like, that's
honestly,
the thing
yeah.
is, and Tony White obviously is going to be teaching his other guys. So I just feel like, however it's working, I feel like Nebraska can hopefully, not saying that the next guy's going to be as good as Tony White, but if you can keep the system and you can kind of keep things rolling, then I really like the system, and not it's not even the 3-3-5 that I like, because it can be so many different things, but I just like having a defense that, can change and can be amoebic. I think that's what you need in college football today. You can't just go out there and say, hey, we're going to play cover 2. You have to be able to confuse the quarterback, whether it's pro. That used to be just pro football. You got to do it in college football now too. And Nebraska wasn't doing it before. And now they are. And that's why this defense, I think, is having success. Plus, Ty Robinson and Nash Hutchmaker are just whipping ass up front. So that helps too.
And Dion, I would love to see football played on the moon. That would be so cool. The moon game, that would be awesome. I would love that.
That would be. I do have to say, I loved the. Did you see the Toy Story NFL game that they did? I thought that was freaking awesome.
I thought that was awesome too, because if you looked at the regular NFL telecast and the Toy Story telecast, like, everything lined up like pretty like seamlessly.
Yeah, it was really cool that I wish they did that for every game. I just think that that's a kind of a cool thing for kids. But anyway,
Sam brings up a good point here, because there were so many fans who did not like the hire of Tony White. I was not one of them. I really liked the addition, but so many fans were like, oh my gosh, it's such a waste of money. Like, what is Rule doing? Blah, blah, blah. And now here we are talking about ways we can retain him without him going to another school.
And he presents himself good at press conferences, which is what Tim said. There's a couple of comments I want. So Dion has a great comment here. Made my wife grumpy already and having whiskey sours for breakfast, which is fine, except not working on the honeydew list. So I don't know, Dion, you're in the doghouse already with the wife, but my rule of thumb, I try to get all my dishes, my dishes done and my chores done. I try to get all of the good karma that I can get in the world stored up for the Nebraska game. So if there's a chore that needs to be done, I'm getting it done before the game. I'm doing everything that I can to make the Huskers successful. That's all I can say on the matter.
Yeah, I try to barter with the girlfriend and make sure she stays happy, and whatever brings me peace, that's what I'm going to do, especially on Saturdays. So, honey, if you're watching this, I'm sorry, but it is what it is.
Happy wife, happy life type thing. I did also, I forgot to shout this out earlier. Master Ed, thanks for commenting. Today's
That's awesome,
game will be the first ever attended. I hope you have so much fun. It's going to be an amazing experience for you. Lincoln Memorial Stadium. It's like God's country. It's like the greatest place on earth. So you're going to have a great time.
Big game, yeah.
Yeah, sometime we got to go there together, man. And then we'll do this show from like outside the stadium.
For all our viewers, our goal one of these days is to get an office in Nebraska somewhere so we could do this live on site at Nebraska games. So if we ever end up getting an office in Lincoln or whatever, you guys are more than welcome to come visit, and we'll be streaming live from a studio or a better setup than what I have right now, and that'll be awesome. We're gonna
That'll
manifest it.
yeah, we'll manifest it. That'll be our like if we build it, they will come moment. We'll have like tailgates every day. We'll have whiskey sours in person with you, Dion. He's who
Oh,
says his wife's she's napping. So you're still good. Okay, you're all right.
nap times and quiet times are the best times. Like my mom is still sleeping
That's
right
the
now,
best
and
time to get drunk. She doesn't even know it. She's not even gonna know, Dion. So you're
that's why
good.
I'm like, Chris, we got to do the podcast at this time right now before other people quiet, or else we're never gonna get it done.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, guys, about time to wrap it up here. So yeah, I didn't talk a ton about Purdue, but if you check out our video from Friday, Danny and I are both predicting a Nebraska win. You're probably not changing that, are you, Danny?
No, lots of running the football. Lots of running the football for Nebraska, and I believe you said offensively they don't. They're not necessarily. They're not necessarily an offensive threat, but they have Hudson Card, so that's one guy you got to watch out for. And just as long as they run the football, don't pretend like Harburg is Tom Brady, and stick with what they know, they should be good. And no stupid penalties.
I just, if they can run the ball, if they can run for, over 150 and they can keep Purdue under 100 yards, then I think they're gonna win. And I agree, Sam. Today's game does have me worried. That's why I think this is a huge game. If they win this one, by the end of the day, we're going to be tied for Purdue tied for first place in the Big Ten West. So let's get it done. Tim's predicting Nebraska 17-13. I think Nebraska 20-17. I think, what did you say, Danny? 31-24, or
Yeah.
is that what you said?
Yeah.
Danny's predicting a little. I usually pick the higher scores, but Danny's going the higher score this week. So
Well, our offense can't if we get behind more than 10 points, we're kind of screwed. But I believe another big game for Tristan Alvano is going to be in the cards today. If he can kick like he did that 45-yarder in the wind that was an absolute laser, we're going to be in good shape today.
So here, yeah, I think Tristan's gonna make the winning points. He's gonna make a field goal, put us up like 20-10. Purdue will score, but we'll run out the clock and we'll win. So,
and honestly, I'm
going
to say this about the season as well. He'll be the difference maker, good or bad. I think he's going to play a big factor in how the rest of the season plays out.
Manifest that Alex Henry in him, man. Like
honestly,
he looked like Alex Henry with that kick last week, though. Holy crap. That was
honestly, I love the idea of having a kicker for 4 years that can develop good and bad and become consistent, because we haven't had that in quite a while.
And that's why it was smart for Matt Rule to stick with him. So
exactly.
Now, hopefully you guys stick with us. If you haven't subscribed yet, make sure you hit the subscribe button, get into the comment section, and go Big Red as always.
Go Big Red.